7 minutes. Just a single piece of paper. And an email that the Minister of Justice couldn't explain. February 11th, 2026, House Judiciary Committee. The hearing had been going on for exactly 5 hours. There were people wearing white T-shirts in the gallery of the hall. They had black letters on them. But they weren't letters. They were crossed out, censored words. They were Epstein's victims. And that day, they sat quietly in front of all the cameras, waiting. Dan Goldman stood up, former federal prosecutor, chief legal advisor in Trump's first impeachment trial, New York Congress member. And at that moment, he had in his hand a document published by the Department of Justice, but heavily redacted. This is the story of those 7 minutes. But first, you need to understand this. In December 2025, under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the Department of Justice shared millions of pages of documents with the public, out of necessity, not voluntary. When the victims and MPs began examining the documents, they noticed a pattern. Sections featuring powerful names had been redacted. The names of the billionaires marked as joint perpetrators had been erased. Correspondence addressing specific individuals had been redacted. But something had slipped through the cracks among those millions of pages. Goldman's team found it. An email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. When the unredacted sections were read, one thing was clear. This email addressed Donald Trump's public statements regarding his relationship with Epstein. In Epstein's own words. When Goldman read these sections, he understood why the full version was not intended to be published, and he entered the courtroom with that document. Now think of that moment. Late afternoon, Rayburn House office building. Bondi had been deflecting every question for hours. He had moved on to the stock market figures, crime statistics. When Thomas Massey caught Bondi blacking out Les Wexner's name from the co-conspirator list, she called him a failed politician. When another member asked whether Trump and Epstein were at the same parties with young girls, he got a ridiculous answer. The pattern was clear. Every question about the Trump-Epstein connection was met with a personal attack instead of an answer. Then it was Goldman's turn. He didn't make an opening statement. He didn't fill the stage. He acted like a prosecutor and put the document on the table. I want to show you something from the files published by your ministry. The hall fell silent. This was not the polite silence before a routine question. It was a tense silence, one where everyone felt something real was about to happen. Goldman continued, his voice measured but firm. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. According to the sections your department did not redact, this message addresses Donald Trump's public statements about his previous relationship with Epstein, he said, pausing to let his words sink in, then raising the document to the cameras. As you can see, a large portion of the email is redacted, and the American people cannot read what Epstein wrote about Trump's statements. Another pause, deliberate, like a prosecutor. My question is this: will you commit to sharing the unredacted version of this email with the public so that the American people can understand the extent of what Donald Trump said about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? To understand the extent of what the American people are saying about Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. At this point, the situation took a different turn. Bondi didn't answer the question, not even close.
What he said was, "You were as good a lawyer in 2019 when you tried to impeach Trump as you are today. Did you apologize for that?" Personal attack. Instant, like a reflex. The move of someone who cannot answer the question and knows it. Goldman didn't take the bait. The Attorney General, "I asked you a yes or no question. Will you publish the unredacted email?" Bondi continued. He targeted Goldman's record. It moved to the Biden era. He registered for unrelated cases. And then Goldman did something that shocked everyone in that room. He said one word, cutting off Bondi's defense loud enough to stop him in the middle of his sentence.
The hall erupted. It wasn't applause. It wasn't booing. Chaos. Members jumped out of their seats. Chairman Jim Jordan banged the gavel, seeking order. Journalists began to write. The victims in the gallery stood up. Some covered their mouths with their hands, because what was happening was unprecedented. A congressman, a former federal prosecutor, had yelled at America's Attorney General during the full impeachment. And he did it because Trump did not answer a direct question about evidence showing he lied about Epstein. Goldman was not finished. When the room had barely settled down, he repeated the question. "Attorney General Bondi, yes or no? Will you release the unredacted version of the email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell regarding Donald Trump?" asked Goldman. Bondi's face tightened. She was calculating. Honestly saying "we won't release it" would create an impression of a cover-up. Committing to release it would put Trump at risk. And attacking Goldman again hadn't worked before. And she chose the third path again. "Congressman, there are legal standards governing the redactions in these files and—" Goldman interrupted. "This is not yes. This is no. You will not release the email. Let the American people know. The Attorney General just refused to release evidence contradicting President Trump's public statements about Jeffrey Epstein." But the main critical point was this. It was more than just an email. Goldman asked the victims in the gallery to stand, those who had tried to reach out to the Justice Department, requested meetings, wanted to share the information they had, but were turned away or ignored. They all stood up. They all raised their hands. But Bondi continued to look forward at the witness stand and did not look at them. Goldman allowed the silence to stretch, letting the cameras capture the standing victims and the turned-back Bondi before moving on to the email. Do you see what the structure is? First, show that Bondi ignored victims who had information about Epstein's network. Then, show Bondi hiding information about what Trump said about Epstein. This is not a coincidence. This is the framework set by a prosecutor in court. However, there is a noteworthy detail here. Goldman drew attention to another document during the hearing, an email list published by the Justice Department containing the names of Epstein's victims. The list should have been redacted to protect the victims' privacy. But in the published version, only one name on the list was redacted, while the others were clearly visible and disseminated to the world. Goldman did not see this as a coincidence because, in a process where millions of documents went through multiple layers of review, having only one name redacted while the others were left open could not be explained by accident. This was a choice. Bondi said it was unintentional, but he could not explain how this specific error occurred. And this changed the course of the trial, because there was now a concrete record. The email is available. When Goldman brought it up, Bondi did not deny the meeting. Unredacted sections show that it addressed Trump's statements. The Justice Department is withholding the full version, and the Attorney General refused to publish it. This is not speculation. What happened on camera in the congressional hearing? The Transparency Act mandates full public disclosure, And if the Justice Department is withholding material that contradicts public statements about a president's sex trafficking investigation, it's not a discretionary redaction. It's a matter that could raise serious legal questions, even if not officially confirmed. Goldman, a former federal prosecutor before becoming a congressman, knew how to build such a case. The hearing lasted another hour after Goldman's questioning. Other members asked different questions, but the energy had shifted. Goldman had transcended partisan theater and shown something real: hidden evidence, ignored victims, and an attorney general who preferred to shout at a Congress member instead of answering a straightforward yes or no question. By the time the hearing wrapped up about 6 hours later, the clip of Goldman shouting "Quiet" at Bondi had already gone viral. Not for show, but for what it represents: a prosecutor forcing accountability, a congressman refusing to be deflected, and an attorney general caught protecting the president instead of pursuing the truth. It took Goldman only 7 minutes to expose Bondi's strategy of protecting Trump in the Epstein cases by asking a question and presenting evidence, refusing to answer, attacking the questioner, talking over them, and running out the clock worked for other members but not for Goldman. Because Goldman is a prosecutor. He knows when someone is hiding evidence. He knows how a witness looks when they can't answer a simple question. There is an email. Bondi will not publish. Victims continue to be ignored. And Dan Goldman made sure the whole country knows it.